भगवत्युत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। श्रीमद् भागवतम Canto 3, Chapter 3. Am I supposed to share the screen? I think so. Okay. I can share. No problem. You are able to see the screen? I don't hear. I don't know why I'm not. You're in mute, Mataji.
Now I can see.
Ah, yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3.
23.
Text 23. This chapter is entitled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan. Text 23. I'll recite first and then you can recite. Daivadhineshu kameshu दैवाधीनः स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरम् अनुव्रतः दैवाधीनेषु कामेषु दैवाधीनः स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरम् अनुव्रतः दैवाधीनेषु कामेषु दैवाधीनः स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरम् अनुव्रतः. Please chant.
दैवादीनेषु कामेषु दैवादीन स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरम् अनुव्रता.
Hare Krishna. Daivadhineshu kameshu daivadhina swayam punam ko vishram beta yogina yogeshwaram anuvrataha. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Congratulations on your initiation. Bhavagrahi Janardhan Prabhu. Go ahead. Next,
Thank you,
please.
Mataji.
Devadhineshu kameshu daivaidina swayam pumam ko vishrambeta yogena yogeshwaram anuvrataha.
Hare Krishna. Daivadhineshu kameshu daivadhina sayam pumam ko vishamayeta yogena yogesharam anubrata. Hare Krishna.
Daivadineshu kameshu Daivadina swayam puman Ko vishrambheta yogena Yogeswaram anubrata. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Devadineshu kameshu Devadina swayam puman Ko vishrambet yogena Yogeshwaram anuvrataha. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay. Let's do the word-to-word translation. Daiva, supernatural. Adhineshu, being controlled. Kameshu, in sense enjoyment. Daiva adhinaha, controlled by supernatural force. Swayam, himself. Puman, living entity. Kaha, whoever. Vishrambheta, can have faith in. Yogena, by devotional service. Yogeshwaram, the Supreme Lord. Anuvrataha, serving. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. That means, except for devotees, nobody will be able to put faith in the transcendental sense activities of the Lord. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti or Devi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment. And everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself. I'll read that again. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. That is, with any sense, he can perform the activities of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Daivadhineshu kameshu, Daivadhina swayam puman. That means Daivadhineshu kameshu, that person who is himself under the control of supernatural force, Daivadhineshu kameshu, Daivadhina swayam puman. He will think that the Lord is also under the control of the supernatural force. The way I am controlled by supernatural force, that's how the Lord also must be controlled by supernatural force. What Srila Prabhupada says, Atmavat manyate jagat. You remember that? Srila Prabhupada says that a man is hard of hearing, and he's calling his wife, Mrs. Such and Such, Mrs. Such and, okay, let's take a name. Okay, Mrs. Sharma, he's calling. And Mrs. Sharma is saying, yes, yes, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. But because he cannot hear, he's thinking she's not able to hear. He's thinking my wife is deaf. She cannot hear when I'm calling her. But the fact is, he himself is deaf. She's saying yes, yes, but he's not able to hear. And he's thinking she's deaf. So those who are under the control of supernatural force, Prakriti, Maya, they will think that the Lord is also controlled by Maya. Simple to understand, isn't it? And somebody who is not under the control of Maya, he can see the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes. People make all these movies about Krishna's Ras Leela. Why? Because they are under the control, they are trying to enjoy mundane, lusty activities, and they impose it on the Supreme Lord. Because they themselves are under the control of Maya, they think Krishna is also under the control of Maya. You cannot understand Krishna's position without being a pure devotee of the Lord. Until and unless you're a pure devotee, you cannot understand his position. So, now we'll look at the verse. I just saw that and I felt like saying it. Daivadhineshu kameshu daivadhina swayam puman. Ko vishrambheta yogena yogeshwaram anuvrataha. Ko vishrambheta yogena. Matlab, meaning he can have faith in the activities of the Lord only when he has taken shelter of devotional service. Otherwise, he cannot understand the Lord's activities. Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. Mudoyam nabhijanati yogamam ajam avyayam. Right? So by the yogamaya of the Lord, Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. That means the curtain of yogamaya covers the Lord's transcendental position from the vision of those who are not devotees. And we are reading the 10th canto in another class. And actually, that was the verse that I just read yesterday. And it's just so closely connected. There, what happened was, recently we celebrated Janmashtami. So you remember the pastime of Janmashtami. Krishna appeared at midnight. And then Vasudev carried the baby to Gokula and brought back the baby girl of Yashodamai. Then when Vasudev came back, he once again put his iron shackles on himself and put the baby next to Devaki and tied him up, put the iron shackles back on his legs, and he just sat down and the gates closed once again. The baby cried, and all the gatekeepers, hearing the baby, this is the 8th child, they ran to Kamsa. Kamsa it was in the middle of the night. He was sleeping, but still he was really not sleeping, because Kamsa is always experiencing fear of Krishna. Even while sleeping, he's only seeing his death in the form of the Lord, in the form of death. Anyway, when he got news, he just rushed to that place. And he's thinking, now my death has come. And he came. And Devaki was pleading with Kamsa to please this is a baby girl. You've killed all my effulgent, illustrious babies. At least let me have the last child. It's a girl, my dear brother. She will become your daughter-in-law. Please let her live. But Kamsa just grabbed that girl with, by her foot, and he dashed the child, attempted to, right? Dash the child against a stone. But the child just, instead of going down, she went up, right? She pushed his head with her leg and she just went up in the sky. And she took the form of 8-armed Durga Devi, beautifully decorated with all weapons, garlands, sandalwood paste, ornaments, and with all these Vidyadharas, Kinnaras, Gandharvas, all the demigods offering prayers and glorifying her. And then Durga Devi, in essence, said, Kamsa, you fool. The person, your enemy who's going to kill you, has already taken birth somewhere else. Stop torturing this innocent Devaki and killing innocent babies. Saying this, she disappeared. Now Kamsa is experiencing fear in his heart. What is the fear? He's experiencing, see, asuras, they worship Shakti, right? So when he saw Durga Devi, oh, this is the divine. He doesn't feel like that, about Krishna. Of course, he sees Krishna, but what he experiences when he sees Krishna is fear. He doesn't see him as the supreme personality of Godhead. He sees, this is my death. That's how Krishna comes to asuras, in the form of death. So they experience fear. But when he saw Durga Devi, this is a divine person. And then she said that the 8th child is born somewhere else already. So now he's thinking, my sister has given birth to Durga Devi, the divine Durga Devi. That means my sister is not ordinary. Huh? And I killed her babies. What will happen to me? I don't know to which hell I will go. My future is completely ruined. This life is finished and my future is also spoiled. So immediately he removed the chains and iron shackles of Vasudeva and Devaki and literally begged forgiveness from them with tears of repentance in his eyes. And he said, I thought only human beings lied, but looks like even divine personalities lie. I heard the Akashvani say that the 8th child of Devaki is going to kill me. That's why I killed all your babies. And I'm such a sinful person that I believe that Akashvani, and unnecessarily I killed my sister's children. And um, I'm like a Rakshasa, a man-eater Rakshasa. Rakshasa means who can eat their own children. So like that, I killed my own sister's children. Like this, he was begging forgiveness. And then he also spoke nice philosophy. He said that actually you are so fortunate you gave birth to to Durga Devi. You shouldn't lament for the babies that were, that you lost, because these babies, actually, we are all under the control of higher authorities. When we will come together, when we will be separated, it is not within our control. So you should not lament for them. And then he gives this analogy. The way from clay pot is made, and when the pots are broken, ultimately there's only clay remaining. In the same way, it is the spirit soul that is eternal, that remains all the time. The bodies come temporarily and then they are finished. So don't lament for the bodies. And besides, the Atma cannot be the killer. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayanti apo, na shoshayati marutuha. The soul can never kill, nor can be killed. So how can I kill? Right? And I'm not responsible. And one who knows this, one agyani, one who realizes this, he is not responsible. He won't get the reaction. So, but still, the act has been done. So, I'm begging forgiveness from you. Unless you forgive, I don't have any deliverance, right? I cannot be free from this. Please forgive me. Now, Vasudeva and Devaki were so exalted that, first of all, even if they had any anger in their heart because Kamsa killed their children, because of Kamsa's repentance, all that anger, even if there was any, it just vanished. It disappeared. And then Vasudev began to speak to Kamsa that, my dear Kamsa, what you said is correct. The living entity, only because of ignorance, okay, pay attention to this. The living entity, because of ignorance is called avidya, receives these bodies, gross and subtle bodies. Subtle body consists of false ego called ahankara. Because of this ahankara, this living entity claims the activities of the bodies to be his own activities. Actually, the living entity does nothing. The living entity is not eating gulab jamun. The living entity is not enjoying sex life. The living entity is not enjoying football. The living entity is not wearing wonderful clothes. All this is done by the material energy. I will tell you the science now, how exactly it happens. I wish I had a diagram. I should have drawn it, but anyway. So let's say this is a spirit soul. Imagine a dot, okay? Because the spirit soul is very, very small, infinitesimal, tiny, right? Spark, not even very small. Actually, the living entity is the smallest conscious being, and the Supreme Lord is the infinite, just the opposite. Anu and Vibhu. You know what is Anu? Anu means that which cannot be divided further. It is the smallest, it cannot be divided any further. That means you cannot even see any distinctions there. You won't be able to see hands, legs, face, nothing. It's the smallest spark. And it is a conscious being. The living entity, spirit soul, is a conscious being. And the Supreme Lord is Vibhu. He is infinite. He has no limits. He is also a conscious being, but a different grade, a different category of conscious being. This is also conscious. The Supreme Lord is also conscious. So naturally, the powers are also different. Everything is small here. Because we are small, everything is small. Just like, what is the capacity of an ant to carry? Can carry a grain of sugar. What can an elephant carry? Right? So, not just in terms of quantity, but even in qualities, the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Lord. He is the Lord. He is the maintainer. He is the controller. Whereas we are maintained, we are controlled. He is the master. We are servants. Eternally, this cannot be changed. That's our position. This small living entity is covered by what is called, so this is the dot living entity, and it's covered by this avidya, ignorance. Around the living entity is avidya. What is the nature of avidya? Avidya will make the living entity forget its own identity. What is my identity? I am Atma. I am a conscious being. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. I am eternal. I am conscious. And I am blissful. This is the nature of the spirit soul. It has its own bliss. The bliss of the soul, not the bliss of Brahman, not the bliss of Bhagavan or Bhakti. No. The spirit soul has its own bliss, just like you have Brahmananda and you have Bhagavad Ananda, Premananda. They're different, right? Like that, the spirit soul has its own bliss called the bliss of the spirit, Atma. It is there. And it has knowledge also. Sat Chit. Chit means knowledge. What is that knowledge? It can know itself that I am a spirit soul. But when it is covered by this avidya, this ignorance, it forgets itself that it is a spirit soul. You may wonder, how is this spirit soul covered by ignorance? Right? Why? What is the reason? How the spirit soul is covered by ignorance? It is covered because of turning away from the absolute truth. Just like there is sun, if you're facing the sun, everything is light. You see the earth, that part which is facing the sun, it is day. Right now in India, it is night. Because that part is not facing the sun. So when we are not facing the Supreme Lord, when we are not facing the absolute truth, those living entities that are not facing the absolute truth, they are captured by this Mahamaya's component called avidya. So there is Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Mahamaya has avidya, vidya, prakriti, and karma. So we are talking about avidya. The living entity covered by avidya forgets itself. And all these living entities covered by avidya are residing in the body of Karanodakshai Vishnu. Since when? Anadi means beginningless. Adi means beginning. Anadi means there's no beginning. You cannot trace back. They're resting in the body of Karanodakshai Vishnu. And when the Lord opens his eyes and glances on Prakriti, what is Prakriti? Prakriti is another component of this Mahamaya. I told you 4 components: Avidya, Vidya, Prakriti, and Karma. So, this Prakriti is also a component of Mahamaya. When the Lord glances, then by his glance on Prakriti, now Prakriti, before his glance, the Prakriti was in an unmanifest state. That means Prakriti is consisting of the modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Daivi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This Daivi Maya, supernatural force, which is controlling all the living entities in this material world. This supernatural force, Prakriti, right? This is a component of Maya. And it consists of the 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When all the 3 modes are in equilibrium, then she is in an unmanifest state. She is not in an active state. You can say like a sleeping state. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this in a nice way because he's a Rasika Acharya. Rasika Acharya means even in philosophy, right? Like when you study philosophy or when you study some science, he brings that juice, that taste, that rasa inside that. So he's saying, just like when a woman is sleeping, when the wife is sleeping, and the man wants to enjoy, he wakes her up, and then he wants to enjoy. Like that, he's comparing the Supreme Lord. He's sleeping in Yoga Nidra, Karanodakashai Vishnu, and when he opens his eyes, then he's waking up Prakriti. She's also sleeping. Why she's sleeping? Because all the modes are in equilibrium. So when he glances, then she also awakens, right? So he's waking her up by his glance. And then he sends his Kala Shakti. His Kala Shakti means, see, Prakriti is not conscious. Everything that you see in this world is made of Prakriti. You know, your phone, your glasses, your water bottle, your laptop, everything is Prakriti. Prakriti cannot move on its own. Prakriti needs the Shakti from the Supreme Lord. So when the Lord opens his eyes, he's sending his Kala Shakti into her and he's impregnating her with all these Jivatmas, living entities that are covered with avidya. Along with this avidya, they have this karma, their karma. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that those who are in ignorance, or those who are under the control of this supernatural force, they cannot understand how the Lord can have sex with his eyes. Now, with our mundane, gross mentality, we may think having sex is the way people have sex in this material world. No, the Lord simply has to glance, and that completes the act of impregnating and producing children. He doesn't have to do it. He doesn't even have to touch anyone. Just by his glance, he just glances on Prakriti, and not one. Human beings may give birth to 1 or 2 children, or some animals may give birth to 10, 12. The Lord brings unlimited number of living entities into this creation by his one glance. This is the Supreme Lord. So then, after he glances at Prakriti, now she is impregnated and she is now known as Pradhana. Pradhana, because she's like a pregnant lady who's just about to give birth. Like, you're 9 months pregnant, just the baby's about to come. That's the state of Prakriti after the Lord glances on her and sends the Kala Shakti. So then the first thing that is born, the baby that is born from this Pradhana is Mahat Tattva. Everything, see, this material energy is nothing but it is composed of the 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So everything that is coming from this Prakriti is also of the same quality. Everything is made of these three modes. Anything that you see in this world, it is made of these three modes. I will tell you how. When Mahat is born, Mahat Tattva, that Mahat is primarily in the mode of goodness. From Mahat comes false ego, Ahankara. That is primarily in the mode of ignorance. It's made of ignorance. Within this product, ignorance, when there is one more point. In the material world, you can never find only one mode. Only one mode. All these three are like best friends. They cannot stay apart from each other. And at the same time, they're competing with each other. Like children, I guess, in a family. They stay together. They cannot stay away from each other. That means you will never find only one or two modes in anything. All three will be there in everything. But the difference is one will be prominent, the other will be less, or like that. The proportions vary. And they're constantly competing to get supremacy over the other. They're always fighting. That is why, sometimes we are in the mode of goodness, sometimes in passion, sometimes in ignorance, because these modes are competing with each other at all times. So when we say Mahat is in goodness, you should understand primarily like 90% or 95% is goodness, but there is some, or even 99% goodness, but there is some portion of passion and some portion of ignorance. Next, false ego is produced. It is primarily made of ignorance, but when the remaining part, there is more goodness, then that false ego and goodness produces mind and the controlling deities. Then false ego, in which the remaining portion has more of ignorance, or let's say passion. False ego in passion produces intelligence and the senses. And then false ego in ignorance produces the gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the five sense objects, taste, form, touch. Now think about it. What are all the things in this world composed of? Mind, intelligence, gross elements, sense objects. What else is there? So they come to 24 elements. All these form 24 elements. And in addition to this, the living entities are there. Living entities are not part of Prakriti. They are sent by the Lord into Prakriti. So now the living entities are there. 24 elements are there. Kala was sent, 26. And also there is Purusha. Purusha means there's also Paramatma. The Lord himself is there as Paramatma. Garbhodakashai Vishnu, Karanodakashai Vishnu, Kshirodakashai Vishnu. This is Paramatma on different levels. So when these elements are formed, using these elements, I'm running out of time. These elements also, they're not able to cooperate with each other to form universes yet. After they're all created, they're just standing there looking at each other, not knowing what to do. Many times it happens, right? You put new people in one room and they don't know each other. So everyone is just, you need somebody, some coordinator to kind of interact with them and, break the ice. Like that, they're all created, but still there is nothing happening. They're all just standing, the 24 elements. Then the Lord sends another Shakti called Bibrit Shakti or Samhanana Shakti. It acts like water for flour, right? When you have to make dough, what do you need? You have to put water and then it forms into a dough. Like that, all these elements, the Lord once again, see, throughout this creation, the Lord is constantly, his eyes are open. As soon as he closes his eyes, there's no more Shakti coming, no more creation. Whatever is happening, it is happening because of the Shakti coming from the Lord. His eyes are open. His eyes are open as long as there is creation. And as soon as he closes his eyes, finished. Lord Brahma's 100 years are finished. Anyway, I'll go systematically. So the 24 elements are formed, and from his eyes, this another type of Shakti called Bibrit Shakti comes, and now these 24 elements come together and they form universes. The shells, universal shells. There are 7 layers. What are these layers? Same, these elements only. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then Ahankara. When you say Ahankara, you take all. Mind, intelligence, false ego, chitta. All together you take. And ultimately there is Mahat Tattva. Okay, Mahat Tattva Chitta. Okay. Ahankara, in false ego, one layer you take false ego, intelligence and mind. And the last layer is Mahat Tattva. So these universal shells are formed, and also these 24 elements, like a chunk, they are also inside the shell, just like an egg. There is a shell outside, and inside you have the egg yolk, isn't it? Like that. Inside the universe also, there is a chunk of these 24 elements, and the universe itself, made of these elements, is there, outer shell. Now the Lord enters into the universe in the form of Garbhodakashai Vishnu. He fills half of the universe with the perspiration emanating from his body. Half of the universe is filled, and now he lays down on that. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this is the Lord's pastime. Like small children, right? Like that. So he has a desire to go and sleep in different places. He's bored of sleeping in the same place. So when he opens his eyes, his wife, Prakriti, immediately understands, even without him having to say anything. As soon as he opens his eyes, then Prakriti is immediately, she understands, when you have a good relationship, husband and wife, husband doesn't have to say. If he just looks in a certain way, wife understands. Oh, it's hot. He wants the fan turned on. Turn on the fan. Or he's just, going to go, or he's going to leave. So let me give him something, his bag or, his shoes or something like that. So a chaste wife will know. When there's a relationship between husband and wife like that, understanding, she will know. So then, Prakriti also, when he opened his eyes, she understood, oh, my Lord wants to sleep in a different place. Immediately, she starts working, right? Like when a man gets up and goes, then the wife is making his bed and cleaning up the place, like that. As soon as he opened his eyes, immediately, she's making all these arrangements. She produced these 24 elements, universal shells are made, and then she invites him, my Lord, please come. So there are so many universes. So the Lord enters these different universes, and then he sleeps there. For how long does he sleep? For him, it is just like one blink, right? Karanadakshay Vishnu. Like he opens and he closes his eyes. One breath, exhalation and inhalation. That much time only. And after that, okay, I had fun. Now go back. But what is happening in the meanwhile in this universe, in that one breath? Now the Lord is sleeping in his yoga nidra. Remember that chunk of 24 elements inside the shell? He takes it inside his belly, inside his womb. That's why he's called Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, Garbha. He's keeping these 24 elements inside his Garbha. And then for 1,000 years, he keeps it there. So just like a woman, when she's pregnant for 9 months, externally, you don't know what's going on, but inside so much is happening. At first, when there is the union of male and female, um, uh, you know, what do you say? Um,
Sperm?
the sperm and the ovum, right? At that time, you don't see any distinction, like, the baby, hands, legs, you don't see anything. All you see is it's just like a mass, right? It's like a uniform mass. Like that, initially, what the Lord takes inside, there is no, I'm saying there are 24 elements, but it's just like a mass, like a cloud. He just takes it inside. But after it is inside, the same Lord, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, enters that mass in the form of Paramatma, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, right? And then, no, not Kshirodakashai Vishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu only. Here also Garbhodak. The Lord who takes this inside his belly, he enters it once again in the heart, in the region of the heart as Paramatma. And because of Paramatma, now activity begins in that. Now slowly holes are formed for the eyes, for the mouth, for the nose, ears. Because just like why the baby looks like the mother, because it's the mother's baby, right? So whatever the mother eats, the baby also eats, right? And it is said that when you're pregnant, whatever you eat, that's what the baby will like to eat in future. You eat nice foods, sattvic foods, the baby, when it comes out, the baby will like to eat sattvic foods. It is said like that, right? Similarly, because Garbhodakashai Vishnu is a person, the supreme person, he has ears, he has a desire to hear, he has, taste, right? Like that, when he desires to hear, then immediately ears are formed inside in that. What is inside is that Virata. Virata is in his womb, developing in the form, right? It takes 1000 celestial years for the Virata to be fully developed. And Virata consists of what? He consists of hands, legs, heads, he is formed exactly in the form of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Just like the baby is born according to the form of the parent. Cat's baby will look like a cat. Dog's baby will look like a dog. Human baby will look like a human baby. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu's baby will look like Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. This Virata is the baby of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. He looks just like Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, only his body is made of material elements. Whereas Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is a completely transcendental personality, but the body of Virata Purusha is made of material elements. And after 1000 years, he takes birth. How does he take birth? From the navel of this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu sprouts a lotus stem. And in that lotus stem is this Virata Purusha. Virata Purusha also has a gross body, subtle body. What is his gross body? It is the aggregate of all the material elements. Whatever material elements you find, the aggregate of everything is the gross body of Virata Purusha, who has a beautiful form just like Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And what is his subtle body? The aggregate of all mind, intelligence, false ego, and chitta that you find in this universe, that is the subtle body of Virata Purusha. So Virata Purusha, gross body, subtle body, and Lord Brahma on top in lotus. All three are born at the same time. And all the living entities that were impregnated into Prakriti by Karanodakashayi Vishnu, by his glands, they are all now, with that chunk, they are also there inside the womb of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. After 1000 years, when this Virata Purusha is born, these living entities are sent to the lotus. They are there with Brahma. Who are these living entities? They are Jivatmas covered by this avidya, ignorance. These are those living entities who are turned away from the Supreme Lord. Now, Brahmaji, and they are also having karma. I'll just come to that in a minute. So, Brahmaji, based on the karma of each living entity, he will decide how much intelligence this person should have, what is his lifespan, what type of body he should get, who should be his parents, on which planet should he take birth, is he going to be a dog, cat, or demigod, and then he will send him there. This is Brahmaji's function. Just imagine. He's not Brahma just like that. How, qualified he must be to be Brahma, to do this for each and every living entity. Seeing their karma, then he will send that living entity. He will give him his subtle body and gross body. This is how all of us, conditioned souls, received this body and our subtle body. This happened at the very beginning of this universe. Then, when we get this body, each body has its own lifespan. We live for, let's say, in the human body, let's say 100 years. After 100 years, what happens? After 100 years, okay, I have to tell you one more thing here. So, when we get this body, you know what happens? Actually, I'm a spirit soul, but I forgot that I'm a spirit soul because of avidya. But I didn't get any body. That means I don't have a mind, intelligence. I don't have any of this yet, material mind and intelligence. So there is no material desires or hankerings, nothing yet. After Brahma, but I have my karma from past. Karma. Okay. Karma means my impressions from past. When Brahmaji gives me my subtle body, it consists of 4. Chitta, Mana, Buddhi, Ahankar. What is Chitta? Remember Mahat Tattva? On a universal level, it is called Mahat Tattva. When a portion of that is given to the individual soul, it is called Chittam or Chitta. And as soon as we get this subtle body, Chittam, immediately from our karma, all our past impressions are imprinted on that. They are transferred. And just like rainwater, when it comes from the sky, it is pure. But as soon as it touches the earth, it becomes muddy. Similarly, this chitta, when it is given by Brahma, it's pure, it is in goodness. But as soon as we are given that, then our past impressions, our samskaras, right? Karma, as soon as it is imprinted on that, it becomes contaminated. That is why we have different personalities. Somebody is good, somebody is bad, someone is intelligent, this and that. How? Because of the samskaras that we are carrying. These samskaras, again, after all, it is a material. Chitta means it's material. So there is goodness, passion, and ignorance. Originally, it was only goodness, but because of my baggage, now it becomes polluted. Either it is primarily in passion or ignorance. And depending on those samskaras, now my intelligence is given to me. My intelligence will also be in ignorance or passion, depending on what impressions I have. And then I am given a mind which is also based on my samskaras. And I am also given a false ego. This is the key player. What does the false ego do? All this, if you see so far, beginning with the Lord's glancing on Prakriti and Prakriti producing these elements, everything is being done by, it's all Prakriti only. Isn't it? I'm a spirit soul. I'm not doing anything yet. The Lord's energy is sent and Prakriti is made to do. But because of false ego, now I'm also given a gross body. Gross body, consisting of earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then you have hands, legs, so on and so forth. I will identify myself with this body because of false ego. What does it mean, identifying? I already forgot that I'm a spirit soul. Now I will think, I am this body. I am this body. As soon as I'm given this subtle and gross body, because of that false ego, ahankara, immediately I will identify myself as this body. And when I identify myself with this body, one more very important section I have to tell you, and then I'll wind up. What is the exact mechanism? What is the exact mechanism when, let's take one simple activity. I am looking at a pen, okay? There's, or anything, take any object. I'm looking at one pen. What is this pen? Pen is gross element, right? Or you can say sense object. What is sense object? That which is received by the senses is the sense object. My eyes receive form. My nose receives smell. My ears receive sound. So form, taste, touch, smell, and what's the other one? Form, touch, taste, smell. What's the other one?
Sight.
Sound. Form, na? Form is sight only.
Okay.
Sound. Okay. So these are the 5 sense objects. So the pen is what? Form.
Form.
It's a form. I'm looking at the pen. What is the sense here? The eyes. Also, eye, what we see, this eye, this is not the real eye. It's called charma chakshu. That means it's fleshy eye made of flesh and blood, etc. This is not seeing. There is a subtle sense in the subtle body, like you have eyes, ears, nose, very subtle, small particle. It is part of the subtle body. That is what is seeing through,
Eyes,
it becomes grosser and grosser as it comes outside. Okay. So now the eye is seeing the pen. Okay. Is the eye acting on its own? No. There is one more. You have controlling deities. We said, remember, false ego in goodness produces in a mind and controlling deities. Indriya Adhishtana Devata. So eyes are able to see when these eyes are moved by that demigod. For example, the controlling deity for eye is an expansion of Surya. Surya Amsha is the controlling deity for the eye. You're all with me? I hope so. So when this person, this demigod, moves your eye or makes your eye see, then the eye is seeing the pen. And the activity of seeing has happened. What happens after that? So
Right.
far, karya, karana, kartritve, right? Karya, karana, and karta. Who is karya? The pen is the karya, the sense object. Who is karana? The senses
Right.
are the karana. The senses. And the senses are acting independently? No. There's a karta, the demigod who's making the sense do. That is why you see in Bhagavad Gita, right? There's a like a puppeteer is the three modes are holding strings and people are doing like puppets. We are like puppets. Our hands are being moved by demigods. Our eyes are moved by demigods. There's
We're
controlling
not
deities.
doing anything.
We are not doing anything. That's the thing. It is all being done by Prakriti. Okay.
God.
And the story is not over. So this is externally a seeing. The eye is seeing the pen, and the eye is made to see by the demigod. The demigod is moving. Now, after the eye sees the pen, it's like a camera. You take a picture, right? What happens? An image is formed. Now it's very easy to understand. We have our phones. You just click and you see the image is formed of something that you're seeing. Similarly, when the eye sees something, whatever the eye saw, that image is sent to the mind.
Hmm.
That is called vritti, manovritti. There's an impression of that formed on the mind. What is the mind? Mind is also coming from Prakriti. False ego and goodness produces mind. Okay. So this impression is formed on the mind. What does the mind do? Mind cannot understand what it is. So that's not mind's function to decide what is this object. It will send it to the next department, intelligence, buddhi. Intelligence's function is nirnayatmaka. That means decide what this
Deciding.
is.
So
It will give knowledge. What is this object will be given by intelligence. But how it will do? You may have seen this pen in the past many times. So all those impressions are saved in your chitta called samskaras. What this intelligence does is, this is the information from the mind. It will compare with the information which is already there in your chitta. All the samskaras, it will match. Oh, this is a pen. And it will send it back to the mind. This is a pen. And also there are samskaras about that pen. Whether you like this pen, you used to write with this pen, so on and so forth. So based on those samskaras, that information is sent to the mind. Now the mind will say, I like this pen. So where is the knowledge produced that it is pen? It is produced in intelligence. Knowledge that this is pen is produced in intelligence. Then that information is sent to the mind, and the mind is saying, I like this pen. Mind, because what are the functions of mind? Accepting, rejecting, thinking, feeling, willing. All these are activities of the mind, right? Liking, not liking, happiness, distress. All these are functions of the mind. So the mind, when it gets this information about this pen, the mind is saying, I like it. I like it. Now plays the, now comes in this ahankara. What does ahankara do? So far, who is playing? It is all Prakriti. Chitta is Prakriti. Intelligence is Prakriti. Mind is Prakriti. Senses are Prakriti. The controlling deities are Prakriti. The sense object is Prakriti. They are the players in the whole game. This living entity is simply witnessing the whole thing happening like a spectator. But because of false ego, it says, I came to know that this is a pen. I like this pen. I saw this pen. It's claiming. This claiming is coming from ahankara, false ego. And because of this claiming, I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intelligence. Actually, I am nothing. I'm not doing anything. I'm a pure spirit soul. But because of this supernatural force, what is this supernatural force? Prakriti. Prakriti is doing everything. But I'm thinking, I'm claiming that I'm doing. And the reason for that claiming is what? Ahankara. What is ahankara? That is also coming from Prakriti. Ahankara is also coming from Prakriti. And because of this claiming, now I am an Indian, I am an American, I am poor, I'm rich, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, I'm intelligent, I'm fat, I'm thin, you're my enemy, you're my friend, so on and so forth. Go on. This is all happening. None of this is happening to me. It is all being done by Prakriti. But I'm thinking, and then what happens? In this way, I live this whole life, and at the end of this life, now it's time to leave the body because I get only a
Limited time.
designated time to live in this body. When I'm leaving, you know what happens? Just like when you have to leave an apartment, I think you have this experience. We have it many times. When you have to leave your apartment, pack up everything, right? So you pack all your stuff and then move to the new apartment. So this living entity packs up everything, his mind, his intelligence, false ego, and his senses, even the sense objects, right? Impressions, whatever. He takes everything and he'll go to the new body. And when he goes to the new body, what do you do when you go to a new apartment?
You
Again, you
start
have to organize everything, right? So now he'll adjust himself to that new body. Before I was thinking, I'm a human being. And now I will be like, if I get the body of a dog, or now I'll start thinking like a dog. I like to wag my tail and I go and lick my master and I like to eat dog biscuits and so on and so forth. My intelligence will be adjusted to the new body. I will just organize. And this is going on one body to another body. And this poor living entity is actually not doing anything. Everything is done by Prakriti, but it's claiming to be the actor, claiming to be the body. And because of that claiming, you'll experience pain. This is easy to understand. If you're
Yes.
very attached to your car, if somebody scratches on the car, your brand new car, you feel the pain. You are not that car, but still you feel the pain. Why? Because you're identifying yourself so much with that car that anything happens to the car, it is happening to you. Same thing. Actually, I'm not this body, but I'm suffering. So this is the position of a living entity that is controlled by supernatural force, which is all the living entities, all the conditioned souls in this entire creation, this universe. How long will this go on? Until Lord Brahma's 100 years are finished. We don't have time to go into details, maybe in another class, like how exactly. All this is there in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. This is all the Lord is saying in the various cantos, again and again, again and again. He's saying the same thing in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. And after 100 years of Lord Brahma, now Lord Brahma's life is also finished. He also has to pack up, wind up everything. Until then, it's taking all its subtle body and everything, right? But when there is final annihilation, even the subtle body is finished because everything has to go back into Prakriti. Mind, intelligence, the way creation happened, reverse creation will happen in annihilation. The only thing remaining is the living entity covered by his avidya. And with that, he'll go and stay in the body of Karanodakshai Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is closing his eyes. When he opens his eyes, again it will come back. And to which universe I will be sent? I don't know. Wherever the Lord sends. Again, in that universe, I will live for 100 years of Brahmaji. And again after that. Like this, since when has it been happening? There is no beginning. Since beginning. Since, for how long will this happen? As long as you don't turn towards the Supreme Lord. All these are problems. All these problems are there because of turning away from the Supreme Lord. When will these problems be finished? When we turn to the Supreme Lord. Can we turn to the Supreme Lord on our own? No. The only way we can turn to the Supreme Lord is when a devotee of the Lord, when a sadhu, a liberated soul, by his association, he shows us, here, turn like this. If we don't come in the association of a sadhu, we will continue like this. It will go on forever. So we should be so grateful to each and every devotee who is helping us to turn to the Supreme Lord. And that is just the beginning, right? We have to come to the platform of pure unalloyed devotional service so that we can actually understand that the Lord's activities are not material like our activities. These are not even our activities. These activities are done by Prakriti. And even the Lord's activities seem to be, but his activities are not done by this material energy. His body, his activities, his consorts, his loving dealings with his wife, these are not done by Prakriti. They're all his internal energy. And that is not material. That is completely transcendental. But those living entities who are covered by avidya, ignorance, they cannot see. They will think that the Lord's activity and my activity is the same. They are not transcendental. One who does not have this spiritual vision cannot distinguish between that which is spiritual and that which is material. Everything looks the same to him. But only when we take to devotional service can we see the difference between the Lord's activities and his and our material activities. I will end there. We can discuss a lot more, but time is
Yes,
short.
yes.
But let's just digest this much for today's class.
Today
Thank
we
you all
learned
so
a-
much.
Today we learned a lot, Mataji. I got a lot of things. See, we think that this is happening, I did, and all these things, like you're saying, puppets only, and the person is somewhere. He is the one who is guiding. And then the things you're telling me, the universal, this form and everything, it is not easy that we think, but God has to do a lot too. He has to work a lot too. So like in our office, we think that we are subordinates, we work, we are doing I'm working in the office, I'm done with that work. No, that boss has to, he has so much responsibility. That responsibility, it's an amazing thing how much he must have thought about the universe, and then like small people, insects like us. It's very much, so much work he did.
It's like the appreciation of a child of all that the parent is doing. Like that,
Yeah.
you're expressing your appreciation of the Supreme Lord.
No, how much he must have done for us. And we think that, no, there was a baby born, like that. Simply we'll say. But the mother, 9 months, she carried that baby. 9 months, she must have gone through a lot of things, the movements and everything, pain, aches, everything. That we don't see that. When we see the baby, our baby is good. That's all. That is so much he did. And that's why he's Anadir Adir Govinda. That's all. He doesn't have anything Adi and Adi. Nothing. No end, no beginning. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Today's class is fantastic.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय,
Jai.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय,
Jai.
समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय.
Jai.
Thank you so
Vancha
much,
kal-
Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
so
you.
Thank
in
you.
detail
Hare
explaining.
Krishna.
Lot of information.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Arubhyasya
kripa
kripa
sindhubhya
sindhubhya
cha
Patitanam
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 Pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
vaishnavebhyo
Namo.
namo
Namo
namaha.
Namaha.
Ananta koti
Koti
Vaishnava
Vaishnava
Bhakta